Every one of them had a prophet standing in front of them telling them the truth. Every one of them was given a chance to turn back, and every one of them chose something else. This is the true story of the 5 worst kings in the Bible. Not 5 strangers scattered across history. They are connected by blood, by marriage, and by the consequences of each other's choices. One king's daughter married into the other's dynasty and nearly wiped out the bloodline that would one day produce the Messiah. One king's sins are named by God as the reason the temple burned generations after he was already dead. And the last king on this list, 2 words from his own mouth explain why Jerusalem fell. You will hear them before this story is over. Stay with us until the end, because what you're about to see is not just 5 bad kings. It is how an entire kingdom was destroyed, one decision at a time, over 350 years. If you haven't already, subscribe to ARC Films channel and join the ARC crew, our channel membership that directly supports our work and keeps us going. That means the world to us. Let's begin. Jeroboam was not born a king. He was a servant of Solomon, so talented and hard-working that Solomon put him in charge of the entire labor force of the northern tribes. One day, on a road outside Jerusalem, a prophet named Ahijah stopped him. Ahijah was wearing a new cloak. He took it off, ripped it into 12 pieces, and handed Jeroboam 10. Then Ahijah spoke the words of the Lord.
See, I am going to tear the kingdom out of Solomon's hand and give you 10 tribes. If you do whatever I command you and walk in obedience to me and do what is right in my eyes, as David my servant did, I will be with you. I will build you a dynasty as enduring as the one I built for David, and will give Israel to you.
All Jeroboam had to do was obey. When Solomon's son drove the northern tribes to revolt, they made Jeroboam their king. He had 10 tribes, a kingdom, and God's promise. But the temple was still in Jerusalem, in Rehoboam's capital. Jeroboam thought to himself, if his people kept traveling there to worship, sooner or later their hearts would return to Rehoboam and they would kill him. So instead of trusting the God who had just given him a kingdom, Jeroboam made 2 idols shaped like golden calves, set them up in Bethel and Dan, and told the people,
"It is too much for you to go up to Jerusalem. Here are your gods, Israel, who brought you up out of Egypt."
He appointed his own priests from tribes that were not Levites and invented a festival on a date he chose himself, a counterfeit version of the Feast of Tabernacles. God sent a man of God from Judah to the altar at Bethel, where Jeroboam was burning incense. The prophet ignored the king and spoke directly to the altar.
Altar, altar. This is what the Lord says. A son named Josiah will be born to the house of David. On you he will sacrifice the priests of the high places who make offerings here, and human bones will be burned on you.
Jeroboam stretched out his hand and ordered the prophet arrested. The hand withered instantly. He begged the prophet to pray for him, and God restored it. Jeroboam learned nothing from it. Years later, his son Abijah fell sick. Jeroboam sent his wife in disguise to the prophet Ahijah, the same man who had torn the cloak on the road. Ahijah was now old and blind. Jeroboam thought blindness meant the prophet could be fooled. The moment she stepped through the door, Ahijah spoke.
"Come in, wife of Jeroboam. Why this pretense? I have been sent to you with bad news. Go, tell Jeroboam, this is what the God of Israel says. You have not been like my servant David. You have done more evil than all who lived before you. You have made for yourself other gods, idols made of metal, and have turned your back on me."
Every male in Jeroboam's house would be cut off. His dynasty would be swept away, and her son would die the moment she crossed the threshold of her own home. She walked back to Tirzah. Her feet crossed the doorstep. The child died. He walked in the sins of Jeroboam, the son of Nebat, who made Israel's sin became a formula repeated across the books of Kings for the next 200 years. Jeroboam did not just sin. He wrote the template an entire kingdom followed into destruction. Ahab did more evil in the eyes of the Lord than any king before him. He married Jezebel, a Phoenician princess, and went and served Baal and worshipped him. He built a temple to Baal in his capital city, Samaria, set up an Asherah pole, and let Jezebel hunt down and kill the prophets of the Lord. Jeroboam had given Israel false versions of their own God. Ahab replaced God entirely with someone else's. The prophet Elijah declared there would be no rain in Israel, except at his word. 3.5 years of drought followed. When Ahab finally found Elijah, his first words revealed who he thought was to blame.
"Is that you, you troubler of Israel?"
I have not made trouble for Israel. But the responsibility lies with you and your father's house.
On Mount Carmel, God sent fire from heaven in front of the entire nation, proving Baal was nothing. Ahab saw it with his own eyes and changed nothing. God gave Ahab chance after chance. When Ben-Hadad, king of Aram, besieged Samaria with 32 allied kings, God gave Ahab victory. When Ben-Hadad attacked a second time, God gave him victory again. But Ahab made a treaty with Ben-Hadad, called him my brother, and let him go.
Oh, this is what the Lord says. You have set free a man I had determined should die. Therefore it is your life for his life, your people for his people.
But his lowest moment was what he did to a man named Naboth. Naboth owned a vineyard next to the palace in Jezreel. Ahab wanted it for a vegetable garden. Naboth refused.
"The Lord forbid that I should give you the inheritance of my ancestors."
Ahab went home, lay on his bed, turned his face to the wall, and refused to eat. The king of Israel, sulking because a farmer told him no. Jezebel arranged for false witnesses to accuse Naboth of blasphemy. Naboth was stoned to death. Ahab got up and went down to take possession of the vineyard. God sent Elijah to meet him there.
This is what the Lord says. Have you not murdered a man and seized his property? In the place where dogs licked up Naboth's blood, dogs will lick up your blood, yes, yours.
When Ahab heard those words, he tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, fasted, and went around meekly. God noticed.
Because he has humbled himself, I will not bring this disaster in his day, but I will bring it in his son's day.
Before his final battle, Ahab gathered 400 prophets who all told him what he wanted to hear. When the king of Judah asked for a true prophet, Ahab admitted,
There is still one prophet, through whom we can inquire of the Lord. But I hate him because he never prophesies anything good about me, but always bad.
Ahab died at the Battle of Ramoth-Gilead. He disguised himself to avoid being targeted, but a soldier drew his bow at random and the arrow found the gap between the sections of his armor. He bled out in his chariot. When the chariot was washed at the pool of Samaria, dogs licked up his blood, exactly as Elijah had said. Athaliah was Ahab and Jezebel's daughter. She grew up in a house where Baal worship was the state religion and prophets of the Lord were hunted down and killed. When she married Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah, she brought everything her parents had built in the north straight into the heart of David's dynasty. Scripture ties Jehoram's evil directly to this marriage. He followed the ways of the kings of Israel, as the house of Ahab had done, for he married a daughter of Ahab. He put 6 of his own brothers to the sword: Azariah, Jehiel, Zechariah, Azariahu, Michael, and Shephatiah. He built pagan shrines across Judah. When he died of a bowel disease so severe that his insides came out, the people buried him outside the royal tombs. He passed away, to no one's regret. Her son Ahaziah took the throne next. He too followed the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother encouraged him in doing wrong. He reigned for 1 year, then he was killed in the north, caught up in the purge that was wiping out her father Ahab's entire bloodline. Her father's house was finished. Her son was dead. Athaliah was the last one standing. She did not mourn, she seized. Athaliah destroyed the entire royal family of Judah. Her own grandchildren, every descendant of David she could find. She became the only woman to ever rule Judah, and she took that throne by butchering her own family. What she did not know is that she was not just killing a family. She was trying to end the bloodline God had promised would one day produce the Messiah. One baby, Joash, had been stolen from the slaughter and hidden with his nurse inside the temple. For 6 years, Athaliah sat on a throne, never knowing that the heir to David's dynasty was growing up in secret inside God's house. In the 7th year, the high priest armed the royal guard with spears and shields that had belonged to King David himself, weapons stored in the temple for generations. He brought the hidden child out, placed the crown on his head, and anointed him king.
Long live the king!
Athaliah heard the shouting. She rushed to the temple and saw a boy standing by the pillar with a crown on his head, commanders and trumpeters beside him, and all the people of the land rejoicing. She tore her robes.
Treason! Treason!
They seized her and brought her out of the temple, for the priest had said she must not be put to death in the house of the Lord. At the horse gate on the palace grounds, they put her to the sword. Manasseh became king at 12 years old. His father, Hezekiah, had been one of the most righteous king Judah had ever seen. A man who had reopened the temple, torn down every pagan altar in the land, and faced the Assyrian Empire with nothing but a prayer: Manasseh rebuilt every altar his father had torn down. He erected Asherah poles. He bowed down to the stars and built altars to them inside the temple courts. Then he crossed a line no king before him had crossed. He took a carved idol and placed it inside the temple itself, in the house where God had said he would put his name forever. He practiced sorcery. He consulted mediums and spiritists. He sought omens. And in the valley of Ben Hinnom, south of Jerusalem, he sacrificed his own son in fire. That valley would become so associated with evil that its name, Gehenna, became the word for hell. He shed so much innocent blood that he filled Jerusalem from end to end. He led the entire nation astray so that they did more evil than the nations the Lord had destroyed before the Israelites. He reigned for 55 years, the longest reign of any king in the history of Israel or Judah.
I will stretch out over Jerusalem the measuring line used against Samaria, and the plumb line used against the house of Ahab. I will wipe out Jerusalem as one wipes a dish, wiping it clean and turning it upside down.
Then the Assyrians came. They captured Manasseh, put a hook in his nose, bound him with bronze shackles, and took him to Babylon. In prison, stripped of everything, Manasseh did what he had never done in 55 years on the throne. He humbled himself before God and prayed. God heard him. God brought him back to Jerusalem, back to his kingdom. Manasseh removed the idol from the temple, threw out the foreign altars, restored the altar of the Lord, and offered sacrifices on it. He spent his final years tearing down what he had spent a lifetime building. But generations later, when Jerusalem burned and Judah was dragged into exile, it was Manasseh's name that God pointed to as the reason. The innocent blood he had shed was something God was not willing to forgive. Manasseh himself found mercy. His consequences outlived him. Zedekiah was not supposed to be king. The king of Babylon had already conquered Jerusalem once, deported the real king, and stripped the temple of its treasures. He placed Zedekiah on the throne as a puppet, and even changed his name from Mattaniah to prove who was in charge. Zedekiah was 21 years old, ruling a kingdom that was no longer his own. From the beginning of his reign, the prophet Jeremiah told him exactly what was coming and exactly how to survive it. Zedekiah did not listen. He rebelled against Babylon. The Babylonian army returned and surrounded Jerusalem. The siege lasted 18 months. Inside the walls, the city starved. Outside, the most powerful army in the world waited. Zedekiah sent for the prophet in secret and asked,
"Is there any word from the Lord?"
The prophet told him he would be handed over to the king of Babylon. Zedekiah did nothing with the answer. His officials accused the prophet of weakening the soldiers' morale and demanded his death. Zedekiah told them, "He is in your hands. The king can do nothing to oppose you." They threw the prophet into a cistern to die in the mud. Zedekiah let it happen, then quietly gave permission for a servant to pull him out. Too weak to protect the prophet, too afraid to obey him. Then Zedekiah sent for the prophet a second time. He brought him to a private entrance of the temple where no one would see them, and asked the same question he had already been answered.
"If you surrender to the officers of the king of Babylon, Your life will be spared, and this city will not be burned down. You and your family will live. But if you will not surrender, this city will be given into the hands of the Babylonians, and they will burn it down, and you yourself will not escape from them.
I am afraid.
Not I reject God, not Baal is greater. The last king of David's line, hiding in a back entrance of the temple, whispering to a prophet he had already let his officials throw into a pit, said, I'm afraid.
Obey the Lord by doing what I tell you. Then it will go well with you, and your life will be spared.
Zedekiah did nothing. Jerusalem fell. When the Babylonian army broke through the walls, Zedekiah fled at night through a gate between the two walls by the king's garden. He ran toward the plains of Jericho, the same plains where Joshua had led Israel into the promised land, with trumpets and shouts centuries earlier. Israel had entered in triumph. The last king fled in shame. The Babylonian army overtook him, scattered his soldiers, and captured him on the plains. They brought him before the king of Babylon at Riblah. The king of Babylon killed Zedekiah's sons before his eyes. Then he put out Zedekiah's eyes. The last thing the last king of David's line ever saw was his own children dying. They bound him in bronze chains and took him to Babylon. Jerusalem was burned. The temple was burned. The walls were torn down. God had promised David that his throne would last forever. The last king to sit on that throne was blind, in chains, in a foreign land. The temple where God had placed his name was ash. But the promise did not die with Zedekiah. It waited for a king whose throne would never end. 5 kings. Each one had a prophet standing in front of them, telling them the truth. The problem was never that God was silent. The problem was that they refused to listen. Jeroboam was given the same promise God gave David. All he had to do was obey. Instead, fear drove him to build a counterfeit religion because he was afraid of losing what God had already given him. Sometimes, the fastest way to lose something is to stop trusting the one who gave it to you. Ahab surrounded himself with 400 voices that told him exactly what he wanted to hear and hated the one voice that told him the truth. If every voice in your life agrees with you, it is worth asking whether you have sought out honest ones. Athaliah came within 1 infant of destroying the bloodline God had promised would produce the Messiah. She failed. No human plan, no matter how ruthless, can outmaneuver a promise God has made. Manasseh did more evil than any king on this list. He sacrificed his own son. He filled a city with blood. And when he was stripped of everything in a prison cell, he prayed, and God heard him. No one is beyond mercy, but mercy does not erase consequences. Manasseh was forgiven. Jerusalem still burned. Zedekiah knew the truth. He asked for the truth. He heard the truth, and he was too afraid to act on it. Knowing what is right and doing nothing is its own kind of failure. In this episode, you met Manasseh, the son who destroyed everything his father built. If you want to see what his father did, the king who faced 185,000 Assyrian soldiers with nothing but a prayer and watched God answer in a single night, watch the full story of King Hezekiah next. Subscribe to ARC Films channel and join the ARC crew. Our channel membership that directly supports our work and keeps us going. That means the world to us. Tell us in the comments, what Bible story should we cover next?